Hello, Renew Health Warriors. This is Dr. Jacqueline Owusu. I am the owner of Renew Health Clinic in Columbus, Georgia, as well as the owner of Dr. Owusu Skincare Wellness, and the senior pastor of Living Free Now Church in Columbus, Georgia. So you are always welcome to join us either at the clinic or at the church on a Sunday, at either clinic or Monday to Friday. So today, I want to kind of, to even start with, to introduce my channel. Basically, as you guys know, this channel is all about incorporating lots of fruits and vegetables, more whole based, whole food, plant based type, eating plan, to be able to get healthy, okay, and become your best version of yourself, both spiritually, physically, and mentally, and in your soulish realm. So you basically become the best version of you for yourself, as well as for your family and those that you are meant to touch in life. So with that said, last week we talked about letting your light shine, basically, because we believe solely in you being a spirit, soul, and body, and that what affects you emotionally also affects you mentally, and it affects you physically. So we believe in being well-rounded, letting your light shine, and that no matter what negative experiences happen in your life, you got this, because you have a God that you serve, and all is going to be well. But you need to release it so that you can be able to learn the lessons from these negative experiences and be able to let it propel you to your next level, okay? So with that said, today I want to be able to focus a little bit on a little teaching. I try to do some teaching here and balance it out with the encouragement and the spirituality as well. But the teaching today is going to be on parathyroid, and the reason why it's the title of this video. Really, it's calcium regulation. But I cannot talk about calcium regulation without talking about parathyroid hormone, vitamin D, and calcitonin. Okay, so I have to be able to touch on all three of those, to be able to understand calcium regulation and to understand how important, or why calcium is so important in our body. This is probably going to be a part 2 of a video, because I don't want it to be too long. Okay, so when I do videos, I don't want it to, I'm trying not to get it too long, but unfortunately sometimes I talk a lot and I try and give a lot of information to you all. But calcium is very important. And why is it very important in our system? It's a very important mineral. It's very important because it initiates the blood clotting cascade. Okay, so several of the blood clotting factors that actually helps clot your blood when you have a cut or something, an injury, these requires calcium to function. Okay, and sometimes I'll be looking down my papers. So I want to make sure I get everything for you all. I put notes down. So if you do not have enough calcium, then you cannot clot the blood, right? And you will bleed out. So it is important when there's an emergency or when you hurt yourself. So it's important to make sure that your calcium is regulated well, and you have enough foods that are bringing calcium in, and your body's also bringing in enough calcium, okay? So calcium is very important for what? Number one, because of it helps with the muscle contraction, okay? Number two, and it helps with nerve impulses, and like we said, the blood clotting cascade as well. And also, it's also very important for the cell wall, okay? The utilization of the processes that goes on in the cell wall. So calcium is very important. How is calcium regulated in the blood? Okay, so in your bloodstream, when calcium is high, right? When calcium is high, it will stimulate the calcitonin. Okay, and when calcium is low, it's going to stimulate the parathyroid hormone to release the parathyroid gland to release the parathyroid hormone. Okay, now where is the parathyroid gland? Right over here, around your neck area, right here, I'm pointing to it. There is the thyroid gland. Okay, and we'll talk about thyroid another time, but right now, because it's calcium regulation, I want to talk about the parathyroid and a little bit about the thyroid. Okay, but there's the thyroid gland. Behind the thyroid gland, okay, you have these four globes, these four lobes, basically, and those lobes are your parathyroid glands. So you have 2 lobes of the thyroid gland and you have 4 lobes of the parathyroid gland, and they're all in that same area. Okay? In the parathyroid gland, you have these cells, and I think it's chief cells, and those chief cells will secrete the parathyroid hormone. Okay? How is the parathyroid hormone stimulated? It is stimulated when you have low calcium in your blood. So let's say you don't have enough calcium in your blood. The parathyroid gland will be stimulated to release parathyroid hormone. When the parathyroid hormone is released, it will work on 2 areas. It works on the bone and it will also work on the kidneys. So in the bone, it is going to, you have the osteoblast and you have the osteoclast. The osteoclast is like the breaking down of the bone so you can release the minerals, okay? So that's what the parathyroid hormone wants to do. I'm not going to go into medical school stuff here. I'm just going to make it very simple so you can understand. So the parathyroid hormone is stimulated or secreted because there's a low calcium in the blood. That parathyroid hormone then will stimulate the bone, the osteoclast of the bone, to be able to, kind of break down bone resorption. So to break down the bone, so it releases the calcium, right, and the phosphate into the bloodstream. Okay? That's what you want to do. You want to release the calcium and the phosphate into the bloodstream. Why? Because you have a low calcium level in the blood, right? Then it does something else. It also goes to the kidneys, right? And it tells the kidneys, and that's where I have to kind of look at my notes I don't make, because I don't want it to be too complicated, because it can get very complicated. So in the kidneys, the parathyroid hormone is going to, kind of stimulate the kidneys to reabsorb or to absorb more calcium, right, into the blood instead of going into the urine. Instead of it going to the urine or the calcium going to the urine, it's going to absorb more calcium from the urine or from the kidneys into the blood, right, and then less is going to go into your urine. Why? Because the ultimate goal is you're trying to increase your blood calcium level. The other thing it's going to also do is it's going to let potassium, right? Not potassium, phosphorus go into the urine. So it's going to increase, it's going to cause the kidneys to increase or absorb more calcium into the blood, and it's going to cause it to let the phosphorus go. So eliminate phosphorus into the urine, absorb calcium into the blood. So that's what the parathyroid hormone is doing. There's another thing the parathyroid hormone also does, and it does that, and this involves vitamin D. So there are 2 ways of getting vitamin D. The sun, we get the rays from the sun, and then it stimulates the skin, okay? And then the skin, it gets all stimulated. It's the whole complicated process. But in the long run, the liver also makes this non-active vitamin D, and that one is called, I'm going to tell you the name, it is called 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Okay, 25-hydroxy vitamin D. That's the inactive form of vitamin D, so it's not active. So how does it become active? There's an enzyme that's made that's called 1-alpha hydroxylase. And that 1-alpha hydroxylase, once parathyroid hormone is released, right, that it goes into the kidneys. See, in one part of the kidneys, it absorbs the calcium, right, back into the blood. But in another part of the kidneys, because you have the distal convoluted tubule and you have the proximal convoluted tubule. So in another part of the kidneys, what the parathyroid hormone is going to do is it's going to stimulate, right, that 1-alpha hydroxylase. And I'm looking down because I want to make sure I get it right for you all. And this 1-alpha hydroxylase, right, is an enzyme, and it's going to basically make the vitamin D that's inactive, right, that the liver made, the 25-hydroxy vitamin D, it makes it active. So then it becomes that particular vitamin D that becomes active, becomes 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D3. Okay, so 1,25-dihydroxy vitamin D3 is an active form of vitamin D. The 25-hydroxylase vitamin D that the liver made is not active. That non-active or inactive vitamin D needs to be activated. Where is it happening? In the kidneys, in the proximal convoluted tubules of the kidneys. And who stimulates this whole process to happen? The parathyroid hormone stimulates that enzyme for it to make that the vitamin D that's inactive active with that 1-alpha hydroxylase enzyme. Okay, so this is very important. Once that vitamin D is activated, right? So now you have 125 hydroxy vitamin D3. Once it's activated, and that 125 hydroxy vitamin D3 is also called calcitrol. 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 So it's also called that. So this calcitrol, which is the active form of vitamin D, then goes to the gut. And what does it do in the gut? In the gut, it increases the calcium, right, and phosphorus absorption from the gut. So remember, the parathyroid hormone goes to the bone, and it increases the activity of the osteoclast, which breaks down the bone, right, and you get more calcium and phosphorus into the blood. Then it also stimulates the kidneys to reabsorb more calcium into the blood and get rid of phosphorus in the urine. Then it stimulates the kidneys to also activate the 1-alpha hydroxylase and activate the inactive vitamin D, right, to active form of vitamin D. That active form of vitamin D now is going to go to the gut. And in the gut, the foods that you eat that has calcium in it is going to absorb that into the bloodstream. Okay, so next week we'll kind of go over foods that we eat that has calcium, because in this they're non plant-based foods that has calcium, and they're plant-based foods that has calcium. On this channel, I'm going to go over the the plant-based foods, the plant-based foods that have calcium, because that's what we focus on. We focus on whole foods with natural plant-based foods, okay? So we'll kind of discuss that a little bit next week. So that's what calcitrol is doing. So do you see how in the regulation of calcium, you need both the parathyroid hormone as well as the active form of vitamin D? Because the parathyroid hormone is working on the bones, the active form of vitamin D is working on the kidneys to try and bring up the calcium level, okay? And once the calcium level gets to be at a certain level, and the body always want to go to homeostasis, right? Then what it does is the parathyroid hormone that has been released, that's causing calcium to come in, that will go back, right, and stop the parathyroid gland from producing more parathyroid hormone. So it's like a negative feed effect, okay? So that's what it does, and then it will decrease. Now, I also want to mention a little bit about calcium and also the net effect. So what is the net effect of the parathyroid hormone? The parathyroid hormone wants to save the calcium. It wants to get calcium to be elevated or increased in the blood, and then it wants to get rid of phosphorus in the urine. All right, so it's going to do it through via the bone as well as via the kidneys. Okay, what is the net effect of the vitamin D3? So vitamin D3 wants to increase serum calcium, but it also wants to increase serum phosphate levels. And how is it doing that? It goes to the gut and it starts absorbing, right, out of the foods that you eat, more calcium and more phosphorus into the bloodstream. So those are the net effect of how parathyroid hormone and vitamin D, regulates the calcium level when it's low in your blood. Okay. Now, how is it regulated when the calcium level is high? And we're going to talk about that. But before that, I want to talk about the regulation of the vitamin D, the calcitrol. Vitamin D is increased, right, as we said, by an increase in parathyroid hormone. Why? Because the parathyroid hormone is going to stimulate the 1-alpha hydroxylase to make the inactive vitamin D active, right? Okay. Or it is decreased, right, either by calcium levels, because now you have too much calcium and too much phosphorus. So when it does that, it goes back and does a loop back negative effect to basically stop it from producing more. I hope that makes sense. And so it's like a negative inhibition, okay? Now, once there is too much calcitrol or vitamin D, it is going to go back, like I said, and stop the production. Okay, so now we have talked about vitamin D, we've talked about parathyroid hormone, and now let's talk about how, when the blood calcium is low. Let's talk about when the blood calcium is high. Okay, so when the blood calcium is high, you want to be able to, what did I say the stimulus of the stimulus of parathyroid hormone is and vitamin D when the blood calcium is low. So the stimulus for when the blood calcium is high, right? It's the stimulus of releasing or secreting calcitonin. And I don't want you to get calcitonin confused with calcitriol. Calcitriol is the active form of vitamin D. Calcitonin is actually produced in the between the thyroid gland, right, and the parathyroid glands. There is a middle layer which is kind of part of the thyroid gland. So it is called parafollicular cells. And these parafollicular cells, those are the ones that releases or secrete the calcitonin. And the stimulus for the calcitonin being stimulated or secreted is high calcium level in the blood. Do you see that? So low calcium stimulates the parathyroid gland to release parathyroid hormone as well as vitamin D. The increased calcium stimulates the parafollicular cells to release calcitonin. That makes sense. Because a lot of times, especially when you're not a medical student, people get confused between calcitriol and calcitonin because it sounds so similar. So it's totally different. Calcitriol is the active form of vitamin D. Calcitonin is actually released from or secreted by the parafollicular cells, which are part of the in the middle part of the thyroid gland, and it releases this calcitonin to be able to decrease the blood calcium level. So how does it work? Okay. I think I'll leave that for next week because I don't want the video to be too long. So next week we're going to talk about how calcitonin works, okay? We talked a little bit, we're going to kind of wrap up how the whole parathyroid calcitonin regulates one another, because when parathyroid hormone is high, calcitonin is going to be low. When calcitonin is high, parathyroid hormone is going to be low, right? So that means that if you have a low calcium and parathyroid is high, that's how you regulate it. If you have a high calcium and calcitonin will be high, and that's how you regulate it. So it's a whole feedback, regulation that is very important. That's why it's very important, the foods that you eat, making sure that it has enough calcium, magnesium, and other minerals in it. And we'll talk about the foods that, starting next week, we're going to start talking about foods that have enough calcium, high calcium, the plant-based foods that you should eat that has calcium, both vegetables, beans, fruits, all of that, okay? So with that said, I'm going to stop the video because I'm going to end it. I don't want it to be too complicated. I want you to, go back, replay it, and kind of have an understanding of why it's important for calcium to be regulated in your bloodstream and calcium to be regulated in your body. Because it's important for the blood clotting, it's important for your muscle contraction, it's important for your nerve impulses, okay? And it's important for the whole cell membrane processes. So that's the important part. So with that said, if you do have questions after you listen to this video, put the question below. If you like the video, comment that you like it. If you leave us comments, we love reading your comments. And share the video with other people. Share with other people. And please subscribe and hit the notification button. So anytime we get a video, you'll be notified that a video has landed. The other thing is, we also have, besides, the clinic being a regular medical clinic plus a holistic clinic, we really try and use, medicine as your food to be able to heal you of your medical problems and stuff. So we encourage the consumption of fruits and vegetables. We have a 28-day program that we do every month. We have an ultimate weight loss program that we do every month. People are seeing amazing results coming off their blood pressure medications, coming off their diabetes medication. And, I tell them, work with your doctor so your doctor can see what you're doing and see the results of what you're getting. We are always here to answer your questions. So we have that going on. We also, so if you're interested, send us a message, and there's also information in the link. I mean, in the below. You can look. Also, We have another way to support us is our teas. We have respiratory tea that is to die for. I'm telling you, you get any type of respiratory symptoms and you take this tea, it zaps it right away. We have and these are loose teas. We have memory tea, we have circulation tea, we have joint teas, we have colon support tea, we have detox tea, right? And we have liver support tea, right? So we have several teas. Plus, we have the power food and the cell support that helps really, the supplements that really, and the male support that helps enhance, your male reproductive system as well as help, with your prostate health. So we have a lot of supplements and a lot of teas that I'm telling you, and it's all natural, it's all herbs, and it really helps people. We also have our skincare and our hair care line and our facial care line that is excellent. Not because I'm the creator of it, but I'm telling you, people try it and they love it. So we got it going on as a wellness clinic and a health clinic. So if you want to help us in any way, or donate in any way, these are ways that you can help. We also have tote bags, we have pens, we have what is notebooks and stuff like that. Water bottles, and these are stuff you can purchase to help us run the clinic. Because there's several people who may not be able to afford the plan, but we give it to them and work with them. Why? Because our ultimate goal is seeing people healthy. So with that said, I just want to tell you that I do love you. We're always open to your questions, your comments, and I just know that I want you as healthy as you can be. I'm on my own health journey, so we're in this together, and we can, with God on our side, we will succeed, and food will be that our medicine, and our medicine will be that food. So God bless you. I love you, and you have a wonderful week. Until we meet next Thursday. Goodbye, Renew Health Warriors. Mwah, 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 mwah.